Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to this month's episode of our finance chats. And today's video is about savings, building a savings muscle. And this is coming from somebody who is like historically has been terrible at savings. Like I'm more of a spender than I am a saver. I like to plan. I can make all sorts of plans, but when it comes to savings, this was the year where I really forced myself to start to learn how to build that savings muscle, and that's what today's video will be about. And yes, just to quickly recap, like I've been doing with this series, we started off with just listing, you know, our financial goals or financial woes or like what worries us. We then learned how to budget. We created a simple budget template. We also made a spending tracker. And yeah, last month we talked about trying to bridge the gap between all of this planning and implementation and actually making our dreams a reality, or just like realizing everything that we want. No, not necessarily everything at once, but just to bring some of these plans into fruition. And now in today's video, I'll talk about one aspect of how to make things better, and that is saving. So if we've gotten to a point where we figured out our spending, we're spending better, more cautiously with what we are doing, we might have just a little bit of more wiggle room to learn how to save, or even if we don't, we still have to learn how to save, and that's what today's video is about. So let me get straight into it. So when it comes to savings, I know I'd mentioned this in prior videos, but I will reiterate it here. With whatever money that we make every month, I know a lot of us, okay, if you're watching a video like this, you might be somebody who most likely is in a situation where you feel like you're living hand to mouth, like with the economy, wherever you live in the country. If you're just like an ordinary citizen like me, like things are hard for most people, and you just feel like you don't have the capacity to save. But we need to try as much as possible. If you are someone who just mentally is like super disciplined, and even just financially, and like to be a percentage of my pay, like whatever I get, whether it's 10% goes towards this, 20% goes towards that, like that's excellent. We might be somebody who is saving a specific amount, saying that I know how much I make after all this planning that I've done thus far, because we're now approaching the middle of the year. You may have given yourself a specific amount of money that you want to save. But then again, if you're still new to this and you're really trying to figure out savings, the bare minimum that we should start with, which is what a lot of people talk about, is an emergency fund of sorts. So if you're always struggling here and there, like things, and life continues to happen to us, and that's something that I, you know, actively worked towards this year, was building an emergency fund. Even if I wasn't able to do anything else at a grand scale, building an emergency fund really, really helped me just mentally, you know, change the way I spend and the like. So when it comes to an emergency fund is you taking note of how much you need as the bare minimum to survive in any given month. So we had done an exercise videos prior where you list down all your needs, like your utilities, your bills, your food, your like just essential things that you would need, and then you total that amount as something that you consider, your essentials. That's what you can consider a monthly amount that you need for an emergency fund, and then you could now start building a fund towards that, where you want to get to a point where if anything, God forbid, were to happen, whether you lose your job or you lose your source of income, whatever it may be, you need to have a certain amount of money that will last you a long period of time. Now, some people say try and save up to 3 months, because at least within 3 months, maybe you can make a plan to find like a new source of income. Some people say 6 months, some people go up to a year, some people even go as far as 2 years of having an emergency fund. And it's great, like that's an excellent way to plan your life and just be prepared for such sort of eventualities. But the more that I try to better my finances, the more that I try to learn, there are a lot of people who have now warned against this whole emergency fund propaganda, like it's a nice thing to put out there and the like, and they do have a point. Like I heard the point of things, and they are right in that don't overdo it with an emergency fund, because an emergency fund is you putting money in an account or just a place that you can easily have access to in case of an emergency. And with that being said, if it's a bank account that you can easily have access to, those ones rarely have like a good amount of savings interest that you could be earning at any given point, because it's more like a current account or a checking account, but the savings amount is very, very minimal. So if you put 2 years worth of an emergency fund and it's just sat there not gaining any money, it will lose its value with inflation over time. So that was really, really important. That was so if you're a superstar who gets to a point where you can save up to 2 years, like you're doing great, the next section that I'll talk about, which is like midterm savings or midterm goals to save towards, you might want to transfer a significant portion of that into a medium term sort of savings or investment situation that you can have access. It may not be immediate, but you can find some sort of medium term goal where maybe if anything were to happen, you can liquidate it within 3 months, or maybe you can liquidate it within 6 months, or maybe you can liquidate it within a year, but it's growing, like it's gaining interest that's far bigger than what is being gained in your emergency fund bank account if you're putting it in a bank account. So if you have something like a supplementary situation where you're saving, so again, very important. I still think emergency funds are great, but if you get to a point where you've done so well and you've saved so much in your emergency fund, you have to ask yourself, like, how much do I really need, where I would have to make a plan, like what's the period of time that I need to put money aside for? Is it 3 months, or would I be able to make a plan within a month and find new income or a new situation? You decide that, and then whatever excess you have, put it into different sources or different types of, like whether it's an investment or a different type of saving situation, where if you decide this is something I can liquidate within 1 month, like that's where you take it. Like if it's going to be 1 month for you, if you feel you need an emergency fund of 1 year, and you get to a point where you have excess of 1 year in emergency funds, whatever that excess is, put it into something else that, as it is growing, it shouldn't be locked in for more than a year. Hopefully that makes sense. I hope I explained that well. And with that being said, I can now move on to like midterm goals. So if you're someone who's saving for an emergency fund, it's super, super important. And if you're also somebody who is saving for more, like you might have, like your daily expenditure or monthly expenditure sorted out, building an emergency fund, you might have something specific that you're looking or working towards. And I know at some point we had sat down and wrote down or just tried to identify things that are important to us, or goals that we want to achieve financially that will make us happy or just improve our lives. That's where you can now have this second pot of savings that is going towards this medium term goal. And this could now be saved, whether it could be, so this one is very you're now making that conscious effort where you plan because you have a specific goal. So if, for example, you're saving for a car and a car costs X amount of money, and you're only able to put aside this amount per month, how many months would it take you to get to a point where, but you know what I mean? You would want to put that in some sort of medium term savings or investments that is growing your money, if that makes sense. So yeah. Hopefully I'm making sense here. So for this one, there are examples like maybe like a fixed deposit account where you can put money in a fixed deposit for 6 months to a year, maybe even 2 years, just to help, grow your money even as you're saving. So every month you're putting money towards something and it's growing, with interest that is higher than that current account where your savings is, where it's like it's far less, where you have access to withdraw it. So if it's a fixed deposit, like, you're able to gain more money on that. The second option, which is like highly risky. So for people like me who live in Zambia, I am like, we do village banking, and I feel like one day I should do a village banking group. When you get yourself into like an excellent group, like the returns are really, really high, and that's an excellent way to grow money, like for a specific goal. And I've been able to do that in the village banking groups that I've been in. So for like medium term goals, that's an excellent plan to make as well. And moving on from like medium term goals, I think that like the last and third category that I'll talk about, at least just for today, because again, I don't want this video to be too long, is how even as you are making, short-term financial goals via an emergency fund, medium-term financial goals towards something specific, we should also plan or make like a very, very conscious effort to make very, very long-term plans towards whether it's retirement or just like long-term financial independence. Like there should always be this plan of life savings that's running concurrently. And I will do a video again, but I still wanted to just introduce it here with the savings muscle that we're trying to build today. So yes, if you can, so if you get to a point where you're able to put something as like into something for emergency fund, if you're actively saving towards something big, you can have that, but also at the same time have it in the back of your mind that you might actually live to the age of 80, especially if you're young, and you have to start making decisions now that you will thank yourself for later in the future. Like, don't wake up at age 55 or 60 and then decide to start thinking about life savings. Like, trust me, the earlier you start, the better. And yes, in conclusion, again, I didn't want this video to be long. So if the only thing you take away from this is just wanting to start to save, like I highly encourage, especially if you're someone like me who's terrible at saving, I highly encourage you to just start with building an emergency fund. Now, like I said, like the whole point of an emergency fund is for you to save like even like 1 month's worth of essentials, like where you have this somewhere like stacked. But if that amount is like too big for you, you know, I'm trying to give an example. Like if, for example, your monthly spend is maybe 10K, like 10K, like wherever you live in the world, like I don't know, like it could be any currency. And already you feel like you're living hand to mouth, like where maybe you make 10K and you spend the entire K. So you're like, how long would it even take me to save a 10K? You know what I mean? Like even if I put away 10% of my money and I just squeeze down how much I spend, it would take me 10 months just to save up for 1 month. But don't give up. Like as in for 1 month's worth of an emergency later on. Don't think it's overwhelming. Like still start. Even if you're not able to save 1,000 per month from your 10K, even just being able to save like like $50, $100 per month, just give yourself some sort of bare minimum to save. Something that is manageable. It could even be spare change and build that muscle. And that's what I did this year. At the beginning of this year, again, I had made a shout out to this not a content creator. Oh my days, she's like, she's a financial advisor. She has an amazing brand called Clever Girl Finance. But yes, she has been, like we've been doing this course as followers, the people who are part of our community. We were trying to build an emergency fund and saving, spare change on a weekly basis. I've been doing that as well, and I gave myself my own little target. I was like at the bare minimum. Every week I need to find a 50 kwacha and put it aside. So for her, she likes to save in cash, but I'm not really like a cash person. And I don't know if I told this story. I probably didn't, but I once had a piggy bank and I was robbed like years back. So like I don't like to do like cash based piggy banks. So I just told myself that I have a little savings account somewhere. I just like and I have a timer on my phone. Like every week, like I must find a 50 kwacha somewhere. Ideally, it should be 100 kwacha. No, not even ideally. Like the standard should be 100 kwacha per week, and then ideally, like I should be putting like a 200 into this savings account to build towards an emergency fund. But I told myself minimum every week, once every week when that alarm goes off, the 50 kwacha should go. Like I shouldn't be in a situation where I'm not able to like transfer a 50 kwacha towards this emergency fund. And even with the emergency fund, if you get to a point where an actual emergency does come up and you've had to draw money from that account, again, don't be discouraged. If you've gotten to a point where you're so proud of yourself, maybe you even reached a 10K somehow, or even if it was a 5K and the 5K was the most you've ever been able to save, and then something comes up and you draw most of it, don't be discouraged. Like, in fact, that's what the emergency fund was. Like, at least you even had this spare money. So, pat yourself on the shoulder for even having that, because it came through and it helped you out for what it was required for an emergency. And then you just keep going and you keep building it up. And that muscle will even help you to save bigger and more. And it also taught me to be cautious of what I'm spending of. Oh, is this necessary? Or if I look at something, I'm like, oh my goodness, like maybe this will go towards my emergency fund. It's also helped me make better decisions here and there, which is great, honestly, which is great. And yes, I will end here for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you at the end of next month, at the beginning of the following month. I'm not sure what time this will go up, but yes, thank you so very much for watching, and I hope you found this useful. Bye.